Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast Beating the Pressed. It's a special hi and a thank you for joining us for our new listeners and subscribers. I know we've had a few more sort of joiners since our last podcast, so thank you for that. You'll hear me whenever I do the intro calling us the world famous podcast. It's slightly tongue in cheek, but hopefully one day it won't be. So my name's Ty. Obviously got my co-host Chris as well, who is beautifully modeling our shirt that I bought and I'm not wearing it myself. So if we manage to get it that we're both wearing it on the same day, it's more luck than judgment. We do tell each other, but we tend to cock it up. Anyway, today's podcast, well, on the back of the last podcast, we've obviously had a load of traction on the back of that, and we just felt we didn't realize how big it was going to be in terms of the focus being on the fans as opposed to England losing it and Italy winning it. The focus wasn't on football. It was more what happened before the game and around the game and sort of after the game with the fans. And the stories are coming out now and everyone's, the FA have started a review. There's plenty of journalists getting first-hand accounts. And Athletic did a really good one where they had individual accounts from all across the country, varying, some people were jibbers as well, and some, well, I only found out what a jibber was after what happened, basically getting in without a ticket. So we've had all sorts of accounts coming through, and we thought it were right to just sort of follow it up and just sort of speak a bit more about it in depth with a focus on that, as opposed to sort of worrying about the football as such. Normally our podcast will always be about football, but we felt this was such a big event and such a huge moment, I think, in this country. This country's had it for years, the hooliganism element around it, and we felt it deserved its own podcast. So that's where we're coming from it today. With that all being said, I'll pass over to my co-host Chris to put a bit more meat on the bones, as they say.
Yeah, like you said, the previous podcast, we got a lot of traction. Especially more so on the actual events before and after, as opposed to the actual game, which is a real shame. Obviously, it's our first final in any major competition since 1966, and we just thought, we would try and shed another light on it, because obviously what we're trying to do is, as a country, we're trying to gain the I think it's a World Cup in 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously with the events that have just passed in mind, we just want to put that at one side and try and establish how it happened and how we could go forward and hopefully get the World Cup in 2030, because in reality, that's what we all want. We do want a home competition, and it's very rare that it comes around. And it does, as we've seen in the recent competition, it does offer us a major advantage, and there's nothing more than we all want than to win a Euros or a World Cup and unite the country like we did for a couple of weeks over the last couple of weeks. But like Ty says, the FA are currently looking into the situation that arose last week, and you don't know whether it is lip service, what they're actually doing, independent panels, and all this kind of stuff, and it just kind of stinks. But I'll just go into the latest. I'm just going to read a brief report on what the FA chiefs apparently are doing. They've informed the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport of the review over the weekend and vowed to identify those responsible for the disgraceful scenes both before and during the match. So they go on to quote, "We are fully determined to understand what happened outside the stadium and inside the stadium at the final on Sunday, the 11th of July, 2021. And then it goes on to say, key emphasis of the findings will be to ensure that lessons are learned and such disgraceful scenes are never able to be repeated. We continue to work with the relevant authorities in support of their efforts to identify those responsible and hold them to account." Now, that's all good and well, but don't you feel like we've heard this so many times in the past before? And I just feel like it's a cycle that's going to continue. Now, we spoke briefly on different types of things that we would change, namely people that haven't got tickets being allowed in for the near vicinity of the ground. But I'd just like us to go a little bit deeper on certain things. And again, you have a first-hand account. Just your thoughts on the announcement, and also just briefly go on to what you discussed last time on our podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, the announcement, anything from the FA, I take it with a pinch of salt. It's exactly, I mean, what learnings are they going to expect to find? Seriously, you know, they didn't have enough stewards, they didn't have enough policing, they didn't have enough security. This was trending on social media, jibbing on the Friday before the Sunday match. It's not something they weren't expecting. People got in the Denmark game, which is a semi-final. You learn from that for the final. Like what's you know, you've heard the learnings. You know what fans are going to do. You've got a late kickoff. You know, it's open. You're going to get fans getting smashed from 8 a.m. Gets to 8. What else do you think is going to happen? You know, they knew everything that was going to happen. And I'll be absolutely shocked if the learnings come. You know, if you come up with anything else other than that. You know, the only thing I can imagine is, you know, there was some sort of argument, or, you know, there was. The Met said, you know, you've not given us enough money to get enough police there, or, you know, the FA saying, you know, we had enough stewards, but you didn't have enough stewards. The stewards are on minimum wage. You've got tickets going for, you know, £1,000. You've got stewards getting paid to let people go through. This is all stuff that's coming out after. So the only thing they'll find out is stuff we already know, but probably to a bigger scale, and stuff they should have sorted out before then, you know. And simply, you know, you need police and horses. That is it. You know what I mean? Can you imagine any of these England fans getting away with? I was thinking about this and said, there's not any other stadium where, you know, you've hosted a major tournament, where a major final, where this would ever happen. I cannot remember in living memory where there have been fans without tickets managed to get into a stadium. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but I don't remember a final ever happening in my lifetime anyway.
You wouldn't get near the stadium in any other
place.
No,
you wouldn't. There's checks all across, and the only one you've got is COVID, and then, you know, then basically shows your ticket, and then you're there. Do you know?
Just explain for people, Ty, like the process of getting to Wembley for the majority of people.
Yeah, so for the majority, it was obviously when I went there, I drove in. So I basically came up by, if you know Wembley Way, it's basically a really long road that leads up to Wembley, and it's sort of cordoned off. So you basically, it's a bit of a bottleneck. So you can't go either way, but there are sort of streets you can come inside to join the sort of, you know, the flow of traffic towards Wembley. So we sort of came maybe halfway up, and that's where but then if you look back at the tube, the London Underground tube is sort of right at the other end of Wembley. People can literally get off the tube and just walk straight up, all the way up to Wembley, literally get to the first checkpoint, which is your COVID checkpoint, where your COVID checkpoint, where you show you whether you're, you know, negative or you've been double vaccinated. And then literally 20 yards ahead of that, it shows your ticket, which they scan with a Bluetooth marker, and it activates your ticket, which you can then scan at the turnstiles. So effectively, there's a metal barrier with one steward. There's no police or anything. So if someone wanted to rush it, you could just rush it. If someone wanted to climb the walls on the side, they could climb, which is exactly what happened. You then walk on, and then you queue up to get into the stadium with a turnstile. So at the turnstiles, you scan your phone and you go. And what had happened on the Sunday was people were tailgating, which is basically, if I've got a ticket, someone coming right up my ass, when I'm scanning it, they're trying to squeeze in the same time as I am. Obviously, I'm a bit bigger, and the lad that tried to do it with me, I was able to push him away. But obviously, if it's, you know, a young lad or a younger woman or a family member trying to do it, they're going to push through, trample over, and away they go. The other way they got in was when the disabled fans were trying to go through. Obviously, you've got to open the big doors. And they've obviously rushed it there. I know it was a couple of times, you know, hundreds were going through. I mean, at the time, I sort of thought the stadium felt full. We were at the Italy-Spain game where it felt 2/3 full. You know, there was plenty of empty seats. And watching it back on TV as well, it looked full. Reports now coming out, there's over 7,000, some are even saying 10,000 extra fans that got in. So the numbers are absolutely ridiculous for that to happen. Now, sorry, go on, Chris, you can ask questions.
Yeah. I just wanted to go just on your point where somebody tailgated you into it, into the turnstile. I read the same, I believe I read the same article as you in The Athletic, where a gentleman was tailgated in himself, and someone like whispered behind him over his shoulder saying, I'm going to stab you. If you turn around, I'll cut, you've got to go through. That's just terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, if someone said that to me, you don't know how you'd react. I mean, I wouldn't.
Probably wouldn't turn around.
Yeah, you would, but you wouldn't expect it in a final. It's not, this isn't, I'm not in the mafia here or something. I'm going to a football match, It's the last thing you expect, And I'm thinking, whether there's going to be police or something, was he not going to go very far? Well, the guy was so far up and backside, it was just ridiculous. And it just felt, if he sort of, this doesn't sound stupid, but if he timed his run right, so as soon as I've done it and I've not felt, and he's gone through at the same time, but he put me on alert just because he was so close.
And sorry. I just wanted to highlight the importance of the first argument that we have for trying to resolve a potential situation, and that is, again, not getting access to the immediate area around Wembley. Like Ty says, you don't have to have a ticket to get into Wembley, where you basically get off the tube and you're onto Wembley, where and you are within 200, 300 yards from the first checkpoint to the stadium. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, around that. Yeah, maybe 400, but it's basically it's not long. Do you know what I mean? So that's the biggest issue there. You've got to put that point. The second point was, and it's been reiterated by so many people that were there, not enough police. Stewards are obviously there for minimum wage, not enough police. You need police on horses to stop those thugs, yobs, hooligans, whatever you want to call them. The other issue was, and it's a new breed of fan. People are saying they're not fans. Unfortunately, they are, because they're England fans. We can't call them a minority. The minority is still abs. I feel when people say it's a minority, that's them kicking the can down the road and it's saying it's not really our problem. The issue is the minority is huge. It's been the same minority for decades. Now it's just a different form of minority now. Back then, I would have thought it was more sort of the stereotypical, and I don't like these stereotypes and stuff, but you get the picture from the 70s and 80s. It's your 50-year-old bald-headed guy with his top off, belly hanging out, getting smashed. That's what you get. There wasn't many of them. It's more the sort of 18 to 25-year-olds that sort of on. They've been locked up for a year and a half, and they've been planning in social media. I read a story, and I think it wasn't The Athletic, actually. There was a lad from Manchester that had sold his ticket for $3,000. He then got on the train, went down to Wembley, didn't pay his train ticket, and he got into Wembley without paying for the ticket. So he's basically sold his ticket, and he's got in free of charge. Obviously, jibbed his way in. So it's the who we normally think of as the troublemakers. I mean, they're still them, but it's more the 18 to 25-year-olds who just want to get smashed from, we've seen the picture of the guy with a flare up his ass as well. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's cool, and it's just a whole image of what the rest of the world is seeing as well, and UEFA is seeing. So these stories are being reverberated around Europe, around the world. People know, and then the first thing they're going to think is, and they have thought, is typical English.
Yeah, I think it's also important that we do establish that, when we do say fans, it is like a fans, a lot of people want to disassociate themselves, including myself, including you. We want to disassociate ourselves from the so-called fans, hooligans, yobs, whatever you want to call them. We don't need to talk about semantics. They are what they are. They're there to support England, and they don't care how to do it. But I have read that a lot of the England Supporters Club did actually manage to acquire tickets through the legitimate channels. So a lot of them are saying it's not your typical fans that, let's say, go to the qualifiers or friendlies or anything like that. They are like you said, the new breed of people that just like to bandwagon jump. Basically, they just like to jump on a bandwagon and just get hammered from morning to night, and that's the next thing. Like I do believe that this is a new breed of yob supporters, whatever you want to call them, and it's almost like a 21st century version, because you couldn't in the past. It's very, very difficult for you to arrange what you call a jib. Yeah, is it a jib?
A jib. They call it a jib. Yeah, so you jib.
Yeah. So do you just want to define what a jib is?
So jib is just something I learned over the last week as well. If essentially what it is, it's someone getting into a stadium without paying for a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's there's wheels of tailgating or jumping in through the disabled openings or whatever it might be, but it's basically cheating the system.
So it's a way of cheating the system effectively, and these things are a lot easier to arrange these days. Like, you know, if you think about social media, all you've got to do is get a hashtag trending of, like, let's say a few hundred people, then you've got something trending, you've got a bit of a bandwagon. And, you know, I go back to that point that I made. I don't think I made it too greatly in the last episode, was the word mobilise, where Gary Neville mentioned mobilise. And it's a lot easier for people to mobilise these days. He used it in a positive light to get fans together, to try and overthrow the powers that be in a peaceful manner. Now, obviously, these new 21st century fans, they can mobilize in a much more powerful way, in a much more unionized way, in a faster amount of time, to practically take over any type of event. And that's why I find it kind of astounding that, you know, with the amount of intelligence that we have, that we can't anticipate this type of thing. We know that, you know, you're going to have a certain amount of police that are available for the event, but you do have the intelligence to know that, right, we can see a social activity online. How many people are looking to do this? Right, this is bigger than what we thought. Can we mobilize more police officers, stewards? Is there anything else that we can do in these situations just to prepare for these type of things?
No, I think you've summed that up brilliantly. The issue and the worrying thing that I sort of felt afterwards was different authorities blaming each other in a sort of underhand way, saying we did everything, we had everything in place, you know, it wasn't us, we had everything done. Met Police Chief Superintendent, I can't remember what she called, but yeah, she was saying the same. UEFA have been, oh yeah, you know, it wasn't as it was the FA, you know what I mean? And there's no one's actually come out and gone, bang, it is our responsibility. Which you'd think, you know, it's the FA's responsibility. It's them they're hosting it. They get the Met Police in. Do you know what I mean? UEFA have obviously gone there. UEFA had so many host cities. It's not really going to be UEFA's responsibility, because if anything goes wrong in, you know, I don't know, Istanbul or Baku, it's them. UEFA are not going to say it. So you've put yourselves forward as a host city. Here you go. The issue I think with it is, when this report comes out, we're not going to find anything new. The report will come out in such a time when everyone will have forgotten what's happened now. So the lessons to be learned, there won't be any lessons to be learned. The only thing England are going to hope is that this report somehow keeps FIFA happy and sweet for 2030 to say, this is, it was quite an easy fix, that we'll just do this next time. I just think, if, you know, there's obviously politics and everything else involved. I don't know if you're aware of the other two major bids that are coming. So there's a Spain-Portugal combined bid. The other interesting one is we've got Italy and Saudi Arabia as well. That I know it sounds absolutely bonkers, but I heard that start of the week, start of last week actually. So it sounds bonkers, but Saudi Arabia will be funding it because obviously they're absolutely minted. The decision's not, I believe it's not till 2024, so there's still a few years to get your house in order. But I think something like this lives long in the memory, and you've got to get the votes in. And England have pissed a lot of people off in the past. There's obviously the failed bid when Prince William and David Beckham and everyone got involved. And there was sort of murmurings from the FA and everyone to say, you know, we're not going to do this again, you know. And they weren't speaking about FIFA in too pleasant. And it's hard to just sort of flick off, flick your finger and just sort of say, yes, happy days. You know, we forgot about what's happened before. FIFA doesn't, the world doesn't, the voting members don't forget that. They'll remember that. And there's still that feeling amongst the world that England sort of seem to think they're the big superpower in the world. And, you know, they're not, you know, in England, we all sort of seem to think we're super powerful. And we probably don't. The word normal working man doesn't, but that's just the impression that the rest of the world has. And on the back of that, just slightly going off topic, but the majority of the world was supporting Italy in this recent final, you know, the Italy-England game final, because they just didn't want to win. The Brexit's obviously not been great for them as well. And there's a lot of stuff going against England, and I just feel the Spain-Portugal bid is good. And for me as a fan, I'd much rather be going to a foreign country to watch and be part of a major tournament than have it in England where there's a chance of something like that happening. So it's not just being worried about going to the actual stadium. It's the same stuff at the fan parks as well. You know, you just want it to be stress-free to enjoy it with your family and friends. But with England fans, there's always a chance that might not happen, but you don't want to take that chance because it's a big, you know, going to a major tournament game is a big thing for a lot of people because, you know, they don't get to do it more often in their lives.
Yeah, you mentioned something there, the fan parks. feel like the fan parks are quite similar to the grounds, in the fact that, you know, there is a lot of like it is an amazing thing once we win. Once we win, everybody's jumping up. You're hugging someone that you've never met before. You know, you're having a good time. But the moment that something goes wrong, the moment that you concede a goal, the moment that, you know, you go out of a competition, bottles are flying everywhere. And, you know, I just keep going back to, you know, how, like, the types of things that, you know, we can do and the things that people have done in past. I mean, but even, like, I looked into it before, that they actually put up drink prices. But that was one of the remedies that they used in the past. You know, they drove up the drink prices so that people didn't have enough, basically, in reality, to spend too much on drinks. You know, maybe you can afford a couple of drinks, 3 drinks, but people really don't care. And that's one of the things that people are talking about: raise the drink prices. But that just hammers everybody. It doesn't feel like it's any kind of a solution. And the other thing that we refer to is, you know, an increase in police. Like, it is obviously probably the key thing that we need to introduce. But I just feel like we could have had, let's say there was 7,000 England fans there the other day. We could have had 7,000 police officers there, and we could have had 7,000 arrests. But of those 7,000 arrests, you'd probably get an ASBO here, a slap on the wrist there, and, you know, they wear ASBOs with a badge of honor these days, so it means absolutely nothing for them. So I know it's kind of the you know, the horse has bolted at this point, but we've got to come down on these individuals so harshly. You know, you've got to talk. You know, you're talking about monumental fines, completing up of bans from any stadium, lifetime bans.
I think the couple of things you mentioned there, the country's got a drinking culture problem, which it has done for decades, and it's like, you know, it's like I said, it's a badge of honor getting smashed and, you know, behaving like a dickhead, because it's just like, oh yeah, what else are you going to do? It's passed on from generation to generation. Now the younger generation are getting involved, but they're just throwing drugs in with that as well, and that's what you get people completely and utterly off their fucking tits. Which, you know, if you were there, you see it. It's not great, more than not great. The other thing is, you go to other countries, and because we're going to have to compare to other countries, because this is the first time we've had a major final for, you know, since '96. Other countries would be a lot firmer. Can you imagine anything like this going on in Russia? Nah.
No. Not even in Spain. You're talking about we're competing with Spain. You know, I do feel like our police are working with their hands tied behind their back somewhat. But yeah, this is not going to go down in any other countries, and we are too soft on the England fans. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So just we're gonna. I think we have done a fairly short one, but it was just to sort of double up on what we spoke about last time. And I think all we can do is, I mean, we're not going to. I don't expect anything new to come out from this report from the FA. I just think it's kicking the can down a bit. It's just disappointing. You know, you sometimes get one go at these, and, you know, for them to be ill prepared for it and got what they deserved. They've got what they deserved. The only other thing I'll say is they were unbelievably lucky in that no one died, or one of the people that got through the gates wasn't someone carrying a bomb or a weapon or a gun. Because believe me, literally anyone could have just gone through. You know what I mean? Once you're in, there's no way for them to find out who it is. So that anything could have happened. It was just fucking dangerous. And I don't think that's something that they are unbelievably lucky with. You know, we could have had an absolute disaster. That is the only sort of saving grace. We're hearing stories, obviously, from, I know that the players are asking the FA for an investigation as well, because a lot of the family members lost their seats to Yobs. So the whole thing is just a shit show from start to finish.
It's from the problem is it's from all the way from the top. You know, we've kind of, over the last few years, we've put up with this rhetoric from the guys at the top who are kind of trying to create a nationalist country, would you say? And, you know, these idiots, you know, they'll argue that this is like a Winston Churchill society. That's how we were brought up, and this is, you know, Churchill was fighting for a war. He had to rally against the evil of the world, and, you know, those are the qualities that you needed at the time. You know, to be nationalist and, you know, be proud of where you come from, you know, and stand up against everything. Now you're completely off the mark. It's a completely different world. this is a time when famine is real. The gap between the rich and poor has never been bigger. And we're all fighting against each other. We're fighting against stewards, working class people. You're fighting with your fellow people. Instead of fighting against the guys at the top. I hear people going on about Marcus Rashford stick to football and all that kind of stuff. It just winds me off. But I'm going to get on my soapbox, so I'm going to stay.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I just think just one final point for me before we wrap it up, and it was missed, and I think it was important. The image, if you ask anyone, the image from 2018 when England were winning, and the image from this tournament as well when England were winning in beer gardens, the image everyone asks is throwing the beers up in the air. Yeah, everyone's happy. I think everyone agree with that. Now, the same thing was happening on Wembley Way with cans. Do you know what I mean? And that was going up in the air. It was smashing in people's head. People throwing cans. So the similarity there for people now say, all right, you've got to behave. You can't throw that. You're sort of glamorizing throwing your beers up in the air. And then when people doing it on the final, you're sort of saying, oh, no, you're the yobs. You sort, it's the same people there, that are now on Wembley Way because they've managed to get somehow on, they haven't even got tickets. They've managed to get to the game. So I think people have got to sort of, I think the media especially have got to have a look at them, the way they've glamorized, doing certain stuff. And again, that's sort of glamorizing the drinking culture as well. And then that's linked hand in hand. You don't have that any other country, where throwing up beer. You just don't see it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no one's condemning it. It's okay to have a good time. It's okay to jump up. It's okay to celebrate. And we do sound like party poopers. Yeah. But in reality, if you want these major events, these are the type of things that you've got to put a stamp on, because it does ruin other people's enjoyment of it.
Yeah, I don't get why this is like once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't know why there's a need and a want from people to just get hammered. Stay sober, take it in. You're not going to take this again. What's the point? You're going to be off your tits on drugs and alcohol. What's the point? It doesn't achieve anything. You could have done that any other place. You can do it in a concert, do it whatever you want, but not in a major tournament final at home in England. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did hear the excuse of it's a cross between a country that's been in lockdown for over a year and the biggest event that the country has probably seen, a sporting event that the country has ever seen. But we all get excited, but in reality, it's the way that you brought up, it's the way that you're taught, and anyone with any kind of decency knows how to behave and knows how not to behave, and those idiots, clearly gone.
No, absolutely. Right, we've we'll sort of wrap it up there. I know we've sort of we tried to keep it short for the new listeners, but we always tend to end up going a bit longer. And we do have a question of the day that's normally on our podcasts. So the question of the day today is: do you think England deserves to host the 2030 World Cup after the recent final? And do you think they will learn their lessons as well? So as always, comments below, give it that like and subscribe, share it as well, help the channel grow. And as always, we say, if you've got this far, you like what we're talking about. So, you know what I mean? Share that shit.
Absolutely. Just for my two piece, I do think a lot of the people, the majority of the country, do deserve England 2030. If we take away this in isolation and we say that this event wasn't an England tournament, it was. We effectively had all of our games at home. I think it's about time we did have a full England tournament here, but like we've just went over it for the last 20 minutes. With the people that are here, it won't happen, and I really do hope we get it. And the majority of you out there do actually deserve it, but we've got to keep those Muppets in control.
Yeah, my view on whether we should, I've said it before. I'm one of those people that I do like to go to a different country and embrace the culture and take it. Well, yeah. But I think the country would be brilliant if we had a full tournament here, and the dream would be for it to be hosted like we hosted the Cricket World Cup, where you'd have opposing fans the ability to sit next to each other and just respect each other, enjoy it. You know what I mean? There was fans in the Italy end with England tops, and England fans were respected. There's obviously Anglo-Italian families and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So just to have that would be the dream. But I think there's a long way for this country to go to get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's summed up perfectly. So yeah, like Ty says, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. It's been great having you. Thank you for getting us above 100 subscribers. You know, it might not sound like a lot to you guys, but when it went over the line, me and Ty were practically jumping down for joy. So again, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all the usual places. You will be able to find us on Google Podcasts as well at some point when I manage to upload. Anything from you, Ty, before we wrap it up?
I mean, we did say we got over 100, but we had about 5 of them that were my mates and said, "Oh, sorry, didn't realise we hadn't subscribed." So thanks for that. And we have got a few more listeners, but yeah, it's great to have you on board, and we'll hopefully the channel will grow. We've been going for just over a year. It was just a couple of mates decided to, we think we know about football, so we don't always talk about negative stuff like this. It's generally, if you want to listen to the other stuff, we've actually done the Euros from '96, which is some really good listens. So if they're all in the library on our YouTube, so that'd be great if you can listen to that. But yeah, as always, thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.
See you in the next one, guys.